In this video, I want to get right into what it would look like if I was basically talking to one of my clients inside of an inner circle call and really just share with you what's on top of my mind, honestly, as we walk right in to 2026. This is my first video of the new year. I really want to just kind of let you in on how I'm thinking, how I view things, the way that I think that you should be operating inside of your business. And I really just want to tackle a couple topics. Like I said, I really want to go off the cuff, but I've got about 5 pieces I want to really just make sure I hit. And like I said, I want to keep this as mentality and allow this video to be a container in the sense of a place for me to just let you have some high quality information here as you want to take it. So I think without further ado, let's go ahead and dive in. My name is Justice Severin. If you're new here, I'm making these videos every single Wednesday for coaches, experts, consultants, high ticket service providers, really helping you to go ahead and create a system that sells for you, right? A lifestyle business, an automated business, something that you could actually run for years to come. And this has come from just me basically going into attempting different, I've been in the same, main coaching space pretty consistent. I'm talking about 5-6 years now, but when I think back to especially like 2021, 2022, how I was running the business, a lot of that, though, there was a wild success, hitting my first $1 million, all these things, my first 30, 50K months and beyond, though that did happen, it was ways that I was running the business that I just knew that I didn't want to have to keep up with. And sadly, you can't kind of learn this until you go through enough of the pains. And these pains are not always financial pains. Like I said, my business I've been in 5-figure months and beyond for as long as I can remember. It feels like in this space, basically consistently ever since 2021. And so what I really want to share with you today is how you can make sure you put yourself on the right path so that you can actually sustain your success long term. All right. So if that's cool with you, I think we should just go ahead and dive right in. And obviously, as well, too, as I always say, if you're new here, comment new down below. I'd love to see your name, check you out. And then obviously, if you're returning, stop messing around. Hit the like button. And not just don't hit the like button to get some value, but go ahead and hit that subscribe button. As you know, I'm dropping these every single Wednesday, like I said, and you've clearly been soaking them up and you're back for more. So this is going to be another goodie. I promise you that much. So first one out the gates here I want to talk about is obviously we are rolling right into 2026. We are in 2026. And with that being the case, we need to start planning. And I really am a big believer in planning quarter to quarter. A lot of people talk about these kind of 5-year plans, yada, yada. I've really been doing a 90-day plan, what I kind of call a 90-day moving future, which is something I learned from one of my mentors a couple of years ago. And it's something that actually a few years ago. It's something that stuck with me, though. And here's the reason, because a lot of the times we get really stuck in a reactive mode, right? And I'll think about this easy scenario. You hear a good idea from somebody on social media, and then you think, I like that. Let me go ahead and work on that this week. And then 2 days later, you hear another good idea. I like that. Let me switch up doing and do that this time. And this will never end. And you will continue to spin your wheels as you may be right now. All right. That may be you that I'm talking to. And so if that's the case, I want you to take a step back and start off with an immense amount of clarity. And so this kind of project that I really run folks through really comes back towards this idea of understanding your wins. And really, this is a powerful process for so many reasons. But basically, want to break it down where there's your past wins, your present wins, and your future wins. And what this does is what it really does is it reinforces what's happened. It reinforces the progress that's been made. And I think there's something to be said, especially when we start tapping into those future wins, because you really start to see that from the past ones that happened. Hey, you set up this new system, you got a client do it using a certain sales process, you got conversations rolling. Wherever you're at, if we're talking leading and lagging indicators, right? Lagging indicators being the things like you closed a client, leading indicators being like you got a lead, you booked a call. Wherever, if you don't have any lagging indicators yet, you haven't closed any clients yet, still you can look below. But if you have closed clients, then now you can start to look at what's worked, right? I had a conversation with a prospect earlier today, actually. I wasn't planning on sharing this, but he was saying how he closed 3 clients off of 40 leads, and he's in the real estate space, and he did that with paid ads. And he was talking about how now he's trying to basically find a new process, a better process. And I'm sitting there thinking, and I was thinking it, and I shared with him obviously via text here too, just how, like, what are you thinking basically? I mean, you have something that works, because He closed 3 clients. These were all these clients worth 5K each. So, and he spent $300 on ads. $300 on ads here. So we're talking a ridiculous return on ad spend, right? But because you aren't really, I think that the avoidance of this exercise kind of allows you to slip up, right? Because you don't look at those past wins. You don't really put them on a piece of paper, put them on a Google Doc, put them wherever the heck you want to, right? And you don't look at them and you don't start to make future decisions based off of what's already worked. So often we want to reinvent the wheel when you need to start focusing on the 80 Pareto's principle, right? 80-20 rule. What's the 20% that's been working? Double down there and find the 80-20 of that. This is where the sweet spot starts to hit. And so by really putting your past wins on the table, putting your current wins on the table, and with the current wins, people can slip up with that. And so with that one, is basically what momentum is brewing right now. What things do you have that are just like you're cooking up right now and you can feel the winds bubbling and bursting at this stage of it? And then future wins, like what wins will be happening if you continue to do this? Like as the example, like, if we're talking about the person I was talking about earlier, it's like the reality is if they were to go ahead and repeat that process, at the very least, they could say future win is I will be getting more clients from my ad campaign, or at the very least, I'll be getting more and more opportunities on a regular basis because I won't turn this off. I didn't finish that story, but basically they were running this campaign, closed the clients, and they stopped it. And this was like 9 months ago, and they just stopped it. And so they're going to look for the next big thing. The reality is that if you have something that's working, you got to lean into it. And then once you do, now you can start to establish what are the projects you should start working on, right? I like to call these multiplier projects, right? The things that will multiply your results. We're not just looking, when you start something brand new, it's almost like a guarantee that it will be difficult, and there's no guarantee that it'll work. If you have something that's working, you can now effectively multiply the results that have happened by doubling down on it, giving it your angle and spin, and however it makes sense. You will know this because you have gone ahead and implemented it, right? So this is how I want you to see, number one. I think that this is just so important as we get into the new year for you to have a clear plan. And one thing to kind of piggyback off of this into our next one is really this idea that you need to start killing your routine, right? And so I really, let me elaborate here because, I'm sure that people will start hating on it. You need to kill your routine before it kills you. I think routines are a phenomenal thing. I have routines, right? I absolutely have routines, and I have routines every day. But the big thing is that I've gotten better at is that I will now catch myself eventually, right? It's because routines serve a purpose until they end up putting you in a cage. And that's what I mean by stop the routine, kill the routine before it kills you. The problem here that'll happen is you start to get into a routine, whatever it may be, and then you get to the point where you feel like without that routine, you can't really be effective. This is where the danger zone kicks in, right? You maybe right now you're like, Joseph, I'm just not in for a routine that works. So I can't even think about that. Well, that's fine. You should find a routine. I am a big routine believer and doer, but I am also a big believer that if we get put in that situation, that we now have effectively erased the productivity that we work to get out of the routine. We chose the routine to get us to eliminate certain habits, most likely, right? You create a morning routine so you get up in the morning, so you can feel refreshed for the day to get to work. You create a work day routine so that you can stay efficient and productive. Now, it's good to have these and find these. What I think you really need to do is once you have that routine, you need to start thinking about what's making this routine work. And you will, a lot of times it won't take long, but when I say that long in length is all relative. I think for me, what I've kind of seen is it's typically like a year. Like I'll typically do things for like a year, and this is give or take, right? Some things have been maybe 3 months is all it takes. Sometimes it's 2 years or more, right? So because there's various routines we have in our world. I was just talking to the clients literally about this yesterday. I use an app called Motion, or I was using an app called Motion, a Motion app, and it's an AI app good for scheduling, and I was using it, and I a couple months ago just got rid of it because I realized that you know what, this was super helpful for me. It was helping me be productive, but all of a sudden, it's like I said, I first started feeling myself becoming reliant on it. And when I start to feel that way about something, it's almost like I'm giving the power to it. I'm giving it. It's like I won't be able to get results without this thing. Now, take all this with a grain of salt here. obviously there's some things we need that are part of the routine, right? If you're using social media to grow your business, like I'm not saying, hey, get out of the routine using social media and start hitting the streets. Like that's not the case here. But we need to start to see how there are certain routines that you probably have right now that are actually hurting you. And right now there's something that just clicked in your mind when I said this here, and when I say clicked, at least there's something that you're wondering if that may be applicable in this situation. I would just urge you to go ahead and put it under the microscope and see what you find. See how you feel. Like take it away and see how it goes. And if you take something, I will tell you this. Here's another truth, honest truth. When I have taken something away that I feel like this is the case, I've never lost because of it. I've never been like, oh my goodness, I should have never gotten rid of that routine. That was saving my life, yada, yada. Because you know the difference. You know if there's something that you need, right? I'll give you another example too. Like maybe you have a family routine, like for you and your household. Like, that maybe that routine is better if it stays longer. But at the same time, maybe you trying to keep, I could think of a decent, my kids are, 4 and 7 years old, right? And it's like, I remember them switching away from nap times to being, growing up, and now they're not taking as many nap times. My 7-year-old isn't napping at all, right? 4-year-old's barely napping too. But it's like, you have routines that you have when they're younger, and then all of a sudden, you try to still hold on to these routines later on because they give you order, but it doesn't work anymore, right? It's like it's actually making things worse, right? Now, your kids aren't sleeping at night because you're trying to make them sleep during the day, and they need to be up. So I share this to say it's the same mentality here, and we need to kill it before it kills you. That's the big thing I really want to have you just hit on here. And with that being said, this now really beautifully tops into the other one. I didn't realize how nice I'd be able to kind of snowball these into one another. But really, this idea, we need to remove fear from the equation. We need to remove fear from the equation. I have a client, where yesterday inside of our inner circle call, he basically just, he told me that he had a 13K month. He's been crushing it, and he's hit several 5K months since working together. He's crossed over 100K cash collected in the business and beyond, right? And so he was just talking about how he's been really growing his business really well on Instagram. Before he was really big on Facebook. Now he's growing on Instagram, and we're talking organically. And he's also been growing on the paid ad side as well too. And so he didn't believe that a sales process that he had would be able to work because he just didn't really have faith that that people would be willing to go down this path. And he already had been given proof from people like myself, other clients inside of the space, and other clients inside of our mastermind here, branded clients. But the reality is that it's kind of like you got to see it to believe it. And what I'm proud of him for is that he did push through to test. And he found out basically, and I say this because it took him a while to test it, right? He was holding on to something he was doing on Facebook that he knew could be right over here. At least I very much knew. He clearly didn't really realize this. And obviously that's why he's working with me, because he trusts me enough to eventually test it. He was running his business very successfully, with other stuff we were helping him with. So, but with that being said, he pushed the fear to the side. And this is something where it ties right back to the ads piece like I'm talking about. Someone's spending $300 to make 15K, yet they're afraid to spend more. And this is something that's very real. And it's been very real even when I think for myself, when I think back, and even if I'm being honest, there's no doubt that sometimes the mentality creeps in. One of my kind of mental challenges that I give myself every year is make sure to remove this mentality that is keeping, myself, you should view this for yourself stuck at the income level that you're at. Because what will happen a lot of the times is you will just find yourself basically showing up, doing just enough to make more than what you're making right now. When you do that, what tends to happen is you end up, it's like you shoot for the A+, you get the A-, you're happy, right? It's like you shoot for it, you shoot for the A+, you get the A-, the B+, and that keeps you at that same income level. But the reality is you want to grow. If you have dreams and visions of a better lifestyle, but the problem a lot of times is that the fear is holding us back. We have got to be able to push through that. We've got to be able to see that we are the restraint. One of my mentors back in the day, shout out Landon, he had told me, was it Landon or Jade? I forget. But one of my mentors, he had told me that, the person you are, let's just say if you're making $5,000 a month, right? The person you are making $5,000 a month in your business is not the person that's going to be able to get you to $50,000 a month. Is not the person that's going to be able to get you to $100,000 a month. These are just straight up facts, and it's like it's hard to. You believe me when I say it, probably too. Like it's not. I don't think it's hard to understand that truth, but the reality is you're operating as if you don't believe that truth, and that's where it gets dangerous. That's where things get slippery, and that's what I don't want for you because you have a passion, you have a desire to grow. And I think the only way we're gonna actually grow is if we start to tackle what's inside of here. And I think that's where ego, we gotta remove that. Fear, we gotta remove that. A lot of these pieces that allow us to believe that we have the answers already. And a lot of the time it means that we have to go ahead and search, find the right support to get us in the right direction so that we can now start to have enough clarity to start to put the fear to the side. I think it's very tough for the fear to the side if you're shooting and flying solo, honestly, as well too. Which is why I'm such a big believer in obviously investing myself. I've always got mentors on my side of the area, but at the same time, urging my audience, you watching, my students, my clients to continue investing in themselves in order to break these barriers because you may have the strategy and the skills to keep you where you're at consistently. But you would be lying to yourself, I imagine, if you said that where you're at right now is as far as you want to go. And if you are as far as you want to go, phenomenal. You probably don't need to keep watching this video. You probably didn't make it this far, to be honest with you, too. Right? So, with that being said, now I want to tap into this mentality of build the business the way, build the business that you're desiring. Build that right now, right? The business that you want, build it now. Build the business that you want right now here. And I say this because a lot of the times and this goes back to, like I said, 2021, 2022. A lot of people, this isn't even true, but a lot of times I just feel like people who are newer underestimate kind of what it takes to get to your first $1 million from a business online. I think that they feel the difference, they feel the distance, but they don't realize you got trials and tribulations you have to go through to get that. And especially if you're at zero right now online, right? Which is where I was, right? We're talking back in 2020, right? And so this is how, if we want to really be efficient, and we really want to get there, we really want to get there the right way. That's something that I bring back 2021, 2022, because the way I was running my business back then, I was doing a lot that I didn't want to do. And I'll tell you what, one ironic part, is I was focusing more on sales than I was client success. I don't mean that in the sense of I didn't care about my clients. I meant more in the sense of I was delegating my client work to other coaches and I was taking care of the sales all myself. And, now I'm getting on sales calls with people all the time and I'm in the DMs hustling and all these things. And I got it was just a lot and all these teammates. And I had, a team of 12 members. And when I just look then in 2023, basically, it was like literally like the first day, I was probably doing my 90-day moving future, right? And I remember just thinking like something's got to change. Or what's good? I remember back in 2023, I had my first ever 65K month. Like things were working, sales were having, but I just started thinking, what type of business do I want to run? And that frame really shifted. And you don't really get that kind of clarity unless you have assistance. You don't get that kind of clarity unless you become extremely clear about what it is that you want instead. And now when you start to understand what you want instead, what that business looks like. And honestly, one of the best ways that I would do it is I would look at someone else's business who's running it a certain way and think, all right, I like how they're doing things. How can I do the same? If you're ever looking to invest in somebody, what you should really look back to is think, how did I get to the point where I'm even seeing this offer? Chances are you're going to go through, they're going to try to teach you the same exact process. Nothing wrong with that. I mean, this is what I do, right? I brand a clients. I teach you how to run an our operating system, which is an automated sales system that gets your high ticket offer in front of people without sales calls. This is how I really want people to win, because I know if they do it this way, you will be able to run this business till you retire and through retirement. That's how I want to have it. I don't want to, there's so many people since I've been in this space that's, early 2020 that have come and gone. So many. So many. And when I look, I only know so many of them. I know a tiny fraction of the majority, right? I know though, for some of them, the way that they're running their business was without a doubt a part of their demise. And some of them, obviously, as you can imagine, left with good money and who knows what they went on to do. But like, I would hate to have to burn something to the ground just because of the way you basically set it up. And so I think this is something that I look at year after year. And if I'm being honest, this year it just continues to hit me hard. I continue to want to double down on my B2C operating system because it's what I know going to allow me to really live the life I want, spend more time with my kids, have more flexibility, get to have fun. Like I get to now I basically flip things on its head. Where like I said before, I wasn't really leaning into the client success side myself. I was delegating that. I have now poured my energy there and my energy is in the marketing. Marketing one to many, right? I'm just doing one to many here. Client success, one to many with one to ones, right? I've also got partnership deals, rev shares, one to one clients, right? But I focus my energy there because that's the stuff that fires me up more. I enjoy the marketing. I enjoy coming on here, dropping a YouTube video, and just sharing gems. Hey, hopefully you agree with the gems part. Hit the like button if you are, right? And this is how I enjoy showing up. And I know that I could stay doing this stuff for years because this isn't I talk about business all the time. My wife is like, "Shut up!" Right? But the reality is that I love this stuff. I can always talk about it. That's why I love going to masterminds and networking events and all these things. And if somebody locally even is like looking for some help, I'll just share, right? I know they're not going to implement, which is why I sometimes just don't even waste my breath. But I'll just share. I've shared this to you because I believe you are here watching this because you do want to implement. And so it fires me up. And so I think that a big thing you really need to start thinking about is build the type of business that you want right now. Because you do have the power. I will tell you this, it may be more challenging, but at the end of the day, if you get it the right way and you scale it that way, you're setting yourself up for some beautiful success. Just some absolutely beautiful success, right? And the last point I wanted to hit was just this power of nurturing. I feel like this is something that in 2026, I think will become more and more important, right? With the way that AI is leveling up inside of the industry, with the way that all these things are happening, I believe that the personal brand is going to be more important than it ever has. And I think that we need to stay top of mind. And this is why, for me, I'm so big on running paid ads, so big on so big on paid ads and email marketing. Like, because these two things, they will allow me to stay top of mind in front of my people day after day. I send a daily email. If you're watching this, you probably got an email from me today, right? And I probably sent you an email for this video. Maybe not if you're watching this later on, if you subscribed after because you got my client magnet funnel or something else of mine, like chances are you're looking good and you're probably seeing my stuff and you're liking the way I'm doing it. And now you're starting to think, how can I implement what Justice is teaching? How can I take what he's doing and take it to the next level? How can I, because this is the differentiator. This is what's going to help you to overcome the challenges of, people are like, ChatGPT can just teach people now. It's like, that's a load of crap. I think that the reality here is that you have to have a strong offer. You have to have your framework, your unique mechanism, and then you have to have a strong personal brand attached to it. By you having these things, and you really having this package together for yourself, it's going to easily separate you from the crowd. And it's going to allow you, I say this, I used to say this all the time. I don't say this that often anymore, but I still believe it to my core. Let's just say you watching, your name is Jimmy, right? Some people are gonna like Jimmy more than me. Some people are gonna like me more than Jimmy. Let's embrace that truth and speak to the ones who are going to like and love us. We don't need. That's what I was talking about. My past client there on Instagram, which is 13K a month. Part of this problem was that he just was thinking like, there's like not enough people on Instagram are gonna follow this process of trying to bring them through. The reality is you don't need all of them. You just need a percentage of a percentage. There's so many people on Instagram, so many people on Meta. Let's not get bogged down by, is there enough people? There's enough people. There's enough people. You aren't at the level of this game yet where there's too many people to where it's like, I've already saturated my market. Stop lying to yourself. All right. Stop lying to yourself, all right? So I think this is how we really want to start to view it, is nurturing super important, and I would try to find a way to really lean in that direction, right? I've got pieces as well, too. Check out, I should have the link down below for my 30-minute coaching system. Like, I already talked about the 30-minute visibility engine. We want to be able to make nurturing as easy as possible to stay consistent as possible. If we hit this on the head, like I said, it just enhances everything. It's one thing where, if you just are going ahead and running ads, running your organic traffic, you're getting leads in, but then after, like, they don't buy from you, let's just say, now you just let it fumble. Now you just wait, but you don't do anything while you're waiting. They're not going to come back. That's why it's important to make sure that you've got your nurture system set up to the finest levels and really stay top of mind. Stay top of mind. Be the one that when the time is right, they think of, right? I think about I just heard someone, I don't know how long ago this was, but they're bringing up the example of like a real estate agent. And when they're talking about like really good versus really bad, it's like, who do you want to be your real estate agent? The person who's, lasted through 7 recessions, right? Or the person who's like kind of jumps in and out of the industry. The person who's lasted even in 1 recession, 2 recessions, like that's the kind of person you want to go to battle with. And I think that the reality is that maybe you weren't looking to buy a house yet, but you are probably looking so that when the time is right, you know who to reach out to. This is how we want to view nurturing for you inside of the business. This is how I'm able to go ahead and make high ticket sales without getting on calls, et cetera, because I'm able to get my offer out there left and right. My offer is literally at the bottom of this video in the description. I am as transparent as I can be with a lot of what I do. And that's kind of my goal here today, to really treat this as a little fireside chat with my clients and just kind of bring you into the fold of what I think and did some high level things. I love to talk tactics and get in the weeds. I think that there's something to be said about some of the stuff that I talked about today here, because the more you start to lean into it, I do just truly believe that you will look up a year later, 3 years later, and you won't even realize how you set up such a business that you love. That's when I look at my business right now. It's a beautiful thing to me where it's come, right? And what's special, I look back to where it came from and how far I've gone now, and the way I'm running things, the way that I'm hitting my base sales numbers. I'm doing it in a way that's sustainable, and it feels so much better doing it this way. And I tell you right now, I want the same for you. So that's where it comes right back towards you to have the right systems. We have the right mindset. We got to remove the fear. We've got to make sure we plan. And really, we just have to make sure that we keep this mentality around, what is the business I want? What is the income I want to be at? And then we need to strip away the ego and the side that's bringing us to the point of, I'm going to try hard. I'm going to try a little harder than I am now to see if I can grow. And it's just going to keep me stuck. If you look back at your last 6 months, 12 months, 3 months, 18 months, you may see this trend where you're having a tough time breaking the ceiling. I want you to really look in the mirror tonight, after I finish this video, and really take a look in the mirror and say, be honest with yourself, be real with yourself, and say, like, am I playing too small? And I think that the way that you can really start to see when that's the truth and you are playing too small is when you look back at the wins that you've already been having, and you realize that you're not really cranking it up enough. You're not cranking the volume up. You're not even you're gently rising the volume, and you're only bringing up a decibel. Take this approach, lean into it. I promise you'll be thanking yourself in 2027. All right. Appreciate your time. I'll see you in the next video.